Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movies, discussion in the multiverse. I am your host, Adam Portrais, and I'm joined by Sean Koufax.
Shazam.
And, of course, Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear, but many people know me as Thundercrack.
Oh, the biggest thundercrack of all, and if you spend any time in a hotel room with him, you'd know that to be true. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back, headed into the theaters this week to talk Shazam. We talked the 1970s Shazam last week, but let's see how they do in the modern era, and I'm excited for this one. First of all, we do want to say thank you to everyone that supports the show over at patreon.com/HMP. You guys help keep this show rolling. And I do want to let you know that, give you a little update here, because each month, we have a Patreon vote. Okay, we give you several movies to choose from. You choose from those as a Patreon supporter, and that's what we cover. So here are the ones, and I'll tell you which ones are kind of getting a little bit ahead of the race, as it were. Here are the nominees: Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow, the Sam J. Jones version of The Spirit, Captain America: Civil War, and of course, perennial all-star Surrogates. And as it stands right now, shock of all, what you guys haven't seen it. What do you figure's at the top right now?
Oh, I'm going to say Surrogates.
Well, Surrogates is actually tied for third. Oh, no, tied for second.
Get to the bottom, HMPers. We can get straight to the bottom with that one.
But no, Captain America: Civil War is on the front here, which is honestly, if you don't know the history of HMP, that is where, in a sense, this show actually started. Over at the Film Find, we reviewed that episode.
Are we sure that we're not talking about Winter Soldier here?
Is that what I did? Would I say the other thing?
You said Civil War, which we reviewed already.
Right. Yes. I take that back. It's Winter Soldier. I'm an idiot, and I don't know how to read. But you guys already knew that. If you listen to this show, that comes as zero surprise to you. So you do have a little bit of chance to go over to patreon.com/HMP, and if you support us at any level, you are able to vote on that this month. And guess what? Every month, because that's what we do. We like to give you guys a little bit of say in how this show works, because you help the show, man, and we appreciate that for all of you. Patreon.com/HMP. But we're not quite done there yet, boys. We've got some more stuff, because we have a mailbag thing. So let's go ahead and open up the old mailbag. Oh, boy.
Bale's here.
And this one comes to us from Jeff. Says it's entitled Marvel Movie Rankings. Hey, Hero Movie Podcast. I am Jeff from Raleigh, North Carolina. I am a BL Black listener. So thank you. I've actually found this email in my drafts. I never sent it for some reason. I wrote this around the time that Punisher Season 2 was out. Anyways, I've been listening to you all for about 2 years. Love the podcast. If you all ever have the time, I would love to see you all rank the Marvel Studio movies in your favorite order before Endgame comes out. So we got a little bit of time to do that.
Dang, what a great idea.
That's going to be...
That's a lot of movies. It'd be like a top 20 for me.
It should be a top 22, I think. P.S. Punisher Season 2 was some stink, excluding the first episode. Daredevil is a classic. Love the Kingpin and the actor who played him. My only issue is the actor who played Daredevil is like 4'11", but it's still great.
Maybe he's the new Wolverine.
Ooh, well, maybe. You never know.
See it happening.
You never know. See it. Jessica Jones Season 1 had the best villain. Season 2 was whack. Black Panther basically took the life and hype out of Luke Cage Season 2. That's kind of true. After every episode I watched, I was in the mood for some jerk chicken and oxtails. The villain wasn't too bad. Iron Fist was basically a waste of time. His best moments were in Luke Cage Season 2. I agree with that. Defenders was the biggest disappointment. But yeah, please make my Marvel Studio ranking dream happen. By the way, I just saw the new Shazam last night and loved it. It was hilarious fun. DC with the comeback. That's from our buddy Jeff, who helps us out, man. Jeff, thanks for the
By the
email.
way, Jeff, if you think I'm not stealing the term BL from this point forward, you are incorrect, sir.
He's just one of
So,
those nice BL
how about-
guys.
A Dinger Zone challenge. We have to rank all of the 307 Marvel Cinematic Universe releases in one of the Dinger Zones before Endgame comes out.
It's 21, right? There's 21 movies.
I think
sounds
that
right.
Endgame is number 21,
Ah,
but I could be wrong. I know it's 59 hours worth, including Endgame.
So between now and then, we need you to go back, rewatch all of those, reevaluate, and then and then cover it. But
is there any Marvel movie that you've never rewatched?
Thanks to this show, no.
we kind of go, it's part of the deal. I can't.
If there were going to be one, it would probably be Thor 2, but I've even rewatched that one, I'm sure.
And half of the ones I've at least seen in the theater twice. So
Have we reviewed Thor 2?
No.
I don't
Then
think
maybe I
so.
have only seen that one once.
All right, maybe that could be on the list. We always have some spots to fill every now and then. Not too often, but we
Not
can,
like it used to be.
Yeah, exactly. It used to be like, well, we got to scour the world. What are we going to do? And now it's just like there's 58,000 different products out there, and they just dropped Sabrina season 2. Everybody. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm
But-
sorry, I passed out. What was that last part?
Yeah, it tends to
I was
have
gonna
that
say,
effect
it's-
on people.
I haven't been watching it, but it's been on the TV in my house all weekend.
Listen, I've talked to people, and honestly, I think it's an age thing. We're definitely, even the younger of the three of us, we're anywhere under us. They're in that demo. They seem to like it, but hey,
Yeah, the
more
ladies,
power to them.
the ladies in my house enjoy it. The fellas,
And-
not so much.
And because you just did it again, Adam, if all three of us were standing together in a room, which one of the three of us would people think is the youngest?
I'd say the one with the least gray in his
Definitely
hair.
me, because I would be wearing my propeller beanie.
Oh, that poor boy has Jack's disease.
Oh man,
All right,
my short leg pants.
all right. I'm closing up the
BL?
mailbag.
Bale's here.
And as always, if you want to send us an email, do that so at heromoviepodcast@gmail.com. Let's go ahead and take a listen to a trailer for Shazam.
I choose you as champion. Say my name so my powers will become yours. Shazam.
Wait, for real?
Say the key! Say my name.
That's crazy, right?
What are your superpowers?
Superpowers, dude? I don't even know how to pee in this thing.
This is proof of authenticity. Super strength. Electricity manipulation. Hyperspeed.
I'd like to purchase some of your finest beer, please.
His name is Captain Sparkle Fingers.
No, it's not. That's not my name.
Chosen one.
Oh, you're like a bad guy, right?
You literally did the opposite of what a superhero is supposed to do. You're him. You're the hero.
You're welcome for not getting robbed.
I'm Batman.
Get him back in!
How old are you?
Basically 15.
Dude, did you see that?
Yeah, you electrocuted a bus and almost killed these people.
And then I caught it!
You leave tall buildings in a single bound.
Alrighty, that was the trailer for Shazam, our new release review of the week. Here's the IMDb plotline. As we know, IMDb always 100% correct in everything they say and or do. We all have a superhero inside of us. It just takes a bit of magic to bring it out. In Billy Batson's case, by shouting out one word, Shazam. This streetwise 14-year-old foster kid can turn into the adult superhero Shazam. This is directed by David F. Sandberg, starring Zachary Levi, Michelle Booth, Jaimin Hunsu, Mark Strong, and many more. But we've done this is the second week in a row for Shazam, so let's see how he does it, kids.
It's time for Bruce's Comic Book Connection.
Bruce, what do you got for us this week?
Well, the Captain Marvel, who would later come to be known as Shazam, was created by Bill Parker and C.C. Beck for Fawcett Publications' Whiz Comics in 1939. The character was easily the most popular superhero in the 1940s, outselling even Superman. We're talking 1.5 million copies per issue at a time when the U.S. population was less than half what it is now. DC wasn't too happy being second banana to the big red cheese, so they hatched a plot worthy of a supervillain, but more on that later. First, I want to talk about the secret origin of the character. After the success of National Comics' new superhero characters, Superman and Batman, Fawcett Publications started its own comics division in 1939, recruiting writer Bill Parker to create several hero characters for the first title in their line, tentatively titled Flash Comics. Now, initially, Parker wrote a story about a team of 6 superheroes, each possessing a special power granted to them by a mythological figure. Fawcett Comics executive director Ralph Dye decided it would be best to combine the team of 6 into one hero who would embody all 6 powers. Parker responded by creating a character he called Captain Thunder. Staff artist C.C. Beck was recruited to design and illustrate Parker's story. And here's what he had to say. Quote, when Bill Parker and I went to work on Fawcett's first comic book in late 1939, we both saw how poorly written and illustrated the superhero comic books were. We decided to give our reader a real comic book, drawn in comic strip style and telling an imaginative story based not only on the hackneyed formulas of the pulp magazine, but going back to the old folk tales and myths of classic times, end quote. The first issue of the comic book, printed as both Flash Comics #1 and Thrill Comics #1, had a low print run in the fall of 1939 as an ashcan copy created for advertising and trademark purposes. Shortly after its printing, however, Fawcett found it could not trademark Captain Thunder, Flash Comics, or Thrill Comics because all 3 names were already in use. Consequently, the book was renamed Whiz Comics, and Fawcett artist Pete Costanza suggested changing Captain Thunder's name to Captain Marvelous, which the editors shortened to Captain Marvel. Inspiration for Captain Marvel came from a number of sources. His visual appearance was modeled after that of Fred McMurray.
Oh, yeah.
Because when kids think of a man of action, they think of the dad from My 3 Sons.
I can't believe I've never noticed that before.
But it's I mean, think about it. It makes a lot of sense. And boy, like that guy cuts a good figure.
Yeah,
And I also got to say, I actually watched a lot of My 3 Sons in my youth. And I honestly have no earthly idea why I watched a lot of My 3 Sons in my youth. But back to our story.
It's a good show.
Fawcett Publications founder Wilford H. Fawcett was nicknamed Captain Billy, which inspired the name Billy Batson. Fawcett's earliest magazine was titled Captain Billy's Whiz Bang, which inspired the Whiz Comics title. Fawcett took several of the elements that had made Superman the first popular comic book superhero, things like super strength and speed, science fiction stories, a mild-mannered reporter alter ego, and incorporated them into Captain Marvel. Fawcett's circulation director, Roscoe Kent Fawcett, recalled telling the staff, give me a Superman, only have his other identity be a 10 or 12-year-old boy rather than a man. As I already stated, Captain Marvel proved to be the most popular superhero character of the medium, and his comics outsold all others. And do you know why kids liked Captain Marvel better than Superman? It's because It's because if you were one of the lucky few kids who had a dime to spend on a comic book as the Great Depression was drawing to an end, you didn't want to read about some 30-year-old newspaper man when you could read about an underprivileged kid who was the world's mightiest mortal. The franchise was expanded to introduce spin-off characters to Captain Marvel between 1941 and 1942, a good 20 years before Supergirl would become a thing. Captain Marvel Jr., the alter ego of a disabled newsboy named Freddie Freeman, debuted in Whiz Comics number 25, and Mary Marvel, the alter ego of Billy's twin sister Mary Batson, first appeared in Captain Marvel Adventures number 18 in 1942. In addition, there was a funny animal spin-off character, which you should not be surprised to hear that I absolutely adored, Hoppy the Marvel Bunny.
Oh, boy.
Hoppy the Marvel Bunny was created in 1942 for Fawcett's Funny Animals comic book. And all fed up with sharing success in the world of superhero comics, DC did the only reasonable thing, and they sued both Fawcett Comics and Republic Pictures for copyright infringement in 1941, alleging that Captain Marvel was based on their character Superman. After 7 years of litigation, the National Comics Publications versus Fawcett Publications case went to trial in 1948. Although the presiding judge decided that Captain Marvel was an infringement, DC was found to be negligent in copyrighting several of their Superman daily newspaper strips, and it was decided that National had abandoned the Superman copyright. As a result, the initial verdict delivered in 1951 went in Fawcett's favor. Never one to quit when evil deeds could be done, DC appealed. Judge Learned Hand, that's really his name, Learned Hand. Judge Learned Hand declared in 1952 that National Superman copyright was in fact valid. Judge Hand did not find that the character of Captain Marvel itself was an infringement, but rather that specific stories or super feats could be infringements, and this would have to be determined in a retrial. He therefore sent the matter back to the lower court for final determination. Instead of retrying the case, however, Fawcett settled with National out of court. The National lawsuit was not the only problem facing comics in regard to Captain Marvel. While Captain Marvel Adventures had been the top-selling comics during World War II, it suffered declining sales every year after 1945, just like the entire comic book industry did. And by 1949, it was only selling about half of its wartime rate, which is still 3 times as much as today's best-selling comic, mind you. Feeling that this decline in the popularity of the superhero comics meant it was really not worth fighting over, Fawcett agreed to permanently cease publication of comics with the Captain Marvel-related characters, and they also agreed to pay DC Comics $400,000 in damages. Fawcett shut down its comics division in 1953 and fired its comic book staff. Hoppy the Marvel Bunny was sold to Charlton Comics, where I'm sure he nearly became one of the Watchmen. In the 1950s, a small British publisher called L. Miller & Son published a number of black and white reprints of American comic books, including the Captain Marvel series. With the outcome of the whole DC versus Fawcett lawsuit, L. Miller & Son found their supply of Captain Marvel material cut off. They requested the help of a British comic writer named Mick Anglo, who created a thinly disguised version of Captain Marvel called Marvel Man. Of course, Marvel Man would come to be known as Miracle Man in the U.S. and have an incredible revival thanks to a couple of comic book writers named Alan Moore and Neil Gaiman.
Never heard of them.
In the Silver Age, when superhero comics came back in fashion, nobody was sure how to bring back Captain Marvel. Fawcett had agreed never to publish Captain Marvel again. Carmine Infantino had a clever idea, and in 1972, he licensed the characters from Fawcett so they could be revived in the pages of its arch nemesis, DC. Because Marvel Comics had, at this time, established their own Captain Marvel as a comic book trademark, DC had to publish their book under the name Shazam. Infantino attempted to give Shazam book the subtitle Shazam, the original Captain Marvel, but a cease and desist letter from Marvel Comics forced them to change the subtitle to The World's Mightiest Mortal. How about that, DC? What's good for the goose is good for the gander, as the young folks like to say. Well, as all subsequent toys and other merchandise featuring the character were also required to use the Shazam label with little to no mention of the name Captain Marvel, the title became so linked to Captain Marvel that many people took to identifying the character as Shazam instead of Captain Marvel. With DC's multiverse concept in effect during this time, this revived Marvel family and the related characters lived within the DC universe on the world of Earth S. The various Shazam comics had mixed success, but about 8 years ago, the character was brought to the forefront by a guy named Jeff Johns in the line-wide rebooting comic Flashpoint. Flashpoint featured an alternate timeline accidentally created by the Flash, who then helped the heroes of this timeline to restore history. One of those heroes is Captain Thunder, an alternative version of Captain Marvel who has 6 alter egos rather than 1. The 6 children, collectively known as Shazam, each possess one of the 6 attributes of the power of Shazam and must say the magic word together to become Captain Thunder. They are an Asian American boy named Eugene Choi, who possesses the wisdom of Solomon, an overweight Hispanic boy named Pedro Pena, who possesses the strength of Hercules. Mary Batson, Freddie Freeman, and Billy Batson possess the stamina of Atlas, the power of Zeus, and the courage of Achilles, and an African-American girl named Darla Dudley possesses the speed of Mercury. After the conclusion of the miniseries, the 3 new children from the Flashpoint timeline, Eugene, Pedro, and Darla, were incorporated into the DC universe via the Shazam backup strip in Justice League, appearing as Billy, Mary, and Freddie's foster siblings. Knowing this, it should come as no surprise that the version brought to the fore by Jeff Johns is the version Jeff Johns would pick to feature in the first live-action movie since the Old Republic picture serials, which coincidentally was co-produced by Jeff Johns. The rest, as they say, is history, guys.
What do you know? Jeff Johns had a hand in this. Wouldn't have figured.
And he really was the first writer to get people interested in new Shazam instead of just sort of the nostalgic like that they may have had for the old Captain Marvel.
And there's also that one brief period in Kingdom Come where, you know, he is a main character in that.
Yeah, he has the House of Thunder or whatever in there. Yeah. And he was also in the sequel to The Dark Knight Returns. The Dark Knight Returns Again, or whatever that was called.
Oh, Dark Knight 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe, is this where we give people a good spoiler warning in case we have first-time listeners?
Yes.
Yes.
So
Yes,
if you are a listener to this show, and I actually, I someone asked me about this the other day, and I was just like, do you guys do spoilers? I was like, yes, we do spoilers here. So from this point on out, there will be all kinds of spoilers for Shazam. But according to the box office, you guys probably went to go see this. This did pretty decently for this time of year.
$53 million, baby.
Not too shabby.
Yeah, but I hope it makes more. I mean,
Me too.
It'll
a very
definitely
good
make
movie.
more next week because next week doesn't really have any super big stuff. And but I mean,
there's 4 wide releases next week, man.
yeah. But but this is the one that people are going to go see. The kids aren't going to be able to go see Hellboy next week, but we are.
But they're going to be
Teaser.
seeing Missing Link.
But that's the younger kids will go see that.
I've got to tell you, man. Like, I saw this movie in a very, very packed movie theater.
Oh, yeah.
And it was 8:45 last night, and I might have been in the very last theater in America where when you get front row seats, they're not far enough back where you can see the full screen. Like
Yeah.
you are literally like craning your neck like you had to do in the old days. Like I was watching a movie from the 50s.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
And that it still didn't matter. But I got to tell you, one of the greatest joys of my life was watching this movie last night. And there must have been about 20 kids around me. And there were 2 little African-American kids sitting like maybe 2 or 3 seats down from me. They made the movie 1,000 times better because every time Shazam would show up on screen, they'd go, Shazam!
I love it.
Shazam! Every time. And they're like probably like 6 and 7, 7 and 8, like around there. And it didn't distract from the movie. It added to the movie. Everybody around us was like, it was just such a great joy to see this movie with so many kids. And when you see it with this many kids, I noticed something, which is the first 20 minutes to half hour of this movie are fairly slow. I mean, and honest to goodness, the entire movie shifts the second that Zachary Levi shows up. And it's just one of those movies where you're like, oh, they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like every step of the way, you're like, oh, they aren't going to flub this. They really understand what this is. And I'm getting to my major point here, which you brought up during the comic book connection, Bruce, which is that, when you read superhero comic books, there is a little bit, especially as adults like we all are, there's a bit of arrested development there. But the biggest reason why you read them is wish fulfillment. And so there is no greater character in all of comic books that really, really nails that wish fulfillment like the character of Captain Marvel / Shazam. There is nothing even remotely close to it. So the kids are getting a little bit antsy, and then you see the old wizard sitting on his throne, and the kids are like, oh man, this is taking forever. And then Zachary Levi shows up, and oh man, those kids went from this movie's kind of boring to this is the greatest movie I have ever seen.
And speaking of the old wizard, who'd have thunk that Digimon Hansu would be the guy in both Captain Marvel movies?
I know, it's crazy, right?
Now,
he is one of those guys where it doesn't matter what you put on him, no matter what the makeup is, the wig, doesn't matter. It's never not him.
You still see him. You see him all the way through, and you're just like, oh, that guy's awesome. I remember him.
He ain't no Michael Dorn.
Now, before we get into the nuts and bolts of the movie, just a couple things I wanted to put out there. The director of this thing, what was his name again? Sandberg?
Yes, David F. Sandberg.
He's mostly a horror director.
I'm a fan of this guy.
Expect that of.
Yeah, he did a short for called Lights Out that was kind of a viral short, got real famous and everything.
Made a movie out of it.
And the movie was okay. It wasn't amazing, but was all right. And then he did the sequel to the Annabelle movie, which was spectacularly good for what it was. So yeah, him doing this turn to kind of kid friendly superhero stuff. But then again, while watching those other movies, you're like, this guy knows what he's doing,
And he's a guy who really gained his notoriety via YouTube. I mean, we're probably going to get a whole, a generation before it was the guys. It's like, these music video directors are taking over the movies.
And then that music video director is David Fincher.
Or Michael Bay.
Michael Bay, even, yes, absolutely.
But soon, I think that we're going to start to see more and more folks that get discovered via YouTube, and probably a lot of sour grapes, old fogies complaining about all these YouTube directors making movies now.
Well, he'd been in the regular kind of just production business, doing commercials and things for years. But Dan Trachtenberg, who did 10 Cloverfield Lane, basically got the big time shout out from a Portal fan film that he made. So it happens.
Yeah, I think we're going to see more and more of that. I mean, it's
where Letterkenny came from also.
Yeah, the changing nature of the beast. YouTube is out there.
So we're going, I'm guessing that all three of us are probably going to gush over this movie.
Well, I wanted to point out one more production note before we get going.
Sure.
When I saw the movie twice, and on the second time I paid a little closer attention to the credits. Dwayne Johnson is credited as a producer on this film.
Oh, I noticed that the first time around.
Yeah,
I was like,
that.
Very
so I think that's going to bear for some discussion maybe later on.
Yeah. Most
Go ahead.
I was surprised that again, spoilers, everybody, and this is a massive spoiler. I was surprised that we did not see him in the stinger at the end.
It really would have just made it unbelievable.
I fully expected to see him.
Not only that, but the bones. I mean, this is an original story, but it's built around the bones of some Jeff Johns stuff.
Right.
Especially with the addition of the extra members of the Captain Marvel family. And Black Adam is in that story in the role that Dr. Sivana is in. And Dr. Sivana had to be significantly powered up by having him team up with the 7 Deadly Sins so that he could fill that Black Adam role. Because normally Sivana, I mean, this is not the first time we've covered Dr. Sivana here on Hero Movie Podcast. He was in Legends of the Superheroes.
He sure was, and this version is slightly better.
But he is a Lex Luthor type. He's a super genius, an evil genius, a mad scientist, all that sort of thing. But he's not super powered other than the fact that somehow he discovered how to walk through walls. Like he has a little Kitty Pryde Shadowcat thing going on. But I wouldn't say that they changed the character. I would just say that they gave us an episode in the character's life that has never been in the comics, but sort of the way that the 7 deadly sins work is occasionally they find a host and they come out and wreak havoc, and then Captain Marvel has to capture him and put him back in prison. This time the host that they chose just happened to be Dr. Sivana.
So how long before we get a fat version of Dr. Sivana? That's the best Lex Luthor ever, is when he was a big fat guy and an industrialist.
Well, it all depends on whether or not Mark Armstrong keeps going to the gym, I guess.
Well, we'll put that on the back burner because I want to talk about what this movie really made me think about the pivot point character / actor in all movies, right? So you have, because Zachary Levi is just amazing as Shazam / Captain Marvel. What do we want to call him? Do we want to call him Captain Marvel?
I mean, I say we call him Shazam. I say we stick
Just
with the new the new official stance of DC is that his name is Shazam, which
Shazam!
I like the idea of a superhero who can't say his own name or else he's no longer a superhero.
It's so great. It's so great. Anyway,
but Captain Sparkle
it's none of your business who I am.
Captain Sparkle Fingers is also acceptable.
I do love Captain Sparkle Fingers. That was pretty great. So, and Zachary Levi is just, I mean, you're not going to find a better Shazam. This is absolute perfect casting. This is Keanu Reeves as Theodore Logan in Bill and Ted's.
Yeah.
But the pivot point character in this entire movie, and also the actor playing him, it's all on Freddie Freeman. Freddie Freeman is the kid playing him is so terrific.
I'm a fan of this kid too.
Jack Dylan Grazer is his name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was Motormouth in It, which perfect casting, man. Perfect casting for both movies.
Yes, this child actor, if as long as he doesn't punt it along the way, he is going to be working forever. Because basically, it doesn't seem like it, but the entire movie is on this kid's back because he has to work with both the child actor playing Billy Batson, and he has to play against Zachary Levi, and you have to have the same connection with both characters, and he does, and he's amazing in it, And the movie that this movie keeps getting compared to is Big. And the pivot point character in Big is the kid who plays Josh's best friend. Well, the kid who plays Josh's best friend is very good in that movie. But I'm going to go out on a limb here. I think that Jack Dylan Grazer is actually a better actor than the kid that's in Big. Because
I would say, I mean, it's just like a totally different set of standards for child actors these days.
It's unbelievable what child actors do today. I mean, it's just mind blowing.
He honest to goodness, he has this entire movie on his back, and not only does he pull it off, he's one of the best characters in this movie. As a matter of fact, when he then gets the powers and he turns into the dude from the OC, it's a little less
Adam Brody.
Yes.
Yeah, Adam Brody.
It's a little less of a movie. I'd rather see the kid in the suit. You know what I mean?
I like the narrative that they cast Adam Brody first and had to find a kid that looked a little bit like him.
And they did. I mean, that kid does look a lot like him.
Yeah, but I'm sure that wasn't the order in which those guys were cast.
But definitely. Well, I think that it was, though, wasn't it? Wasn't Adam Brody first?
Probably. I don't know.
He was.
I don't remember reading the headline that Captain Marvel Jr. was going to be Adam Brody. But,
I'll say this.
There's some headlines I don't read.
Adam Brody is billed rather high to make me believe that he was probably first.
Oh, and the other part to this is that Adam Brody was going to be in the original Justice League movie. The one with the dude who directed Mad Max.
Oh, George Miller was going to do a Justice League movie with Adam Brody.
Yes, Adam Brody was one of the main stars of that movie.
I don't know. I don't know if I think they missed out on that one. I'm not the biggest Adam Brody fan, probably.
No, me neither. But I am a massive George Miller fan.
Yeah. Because you're a human who likes good things.
Because I like things that are good.
Yes. When the same guy can make Babe, Pig in the City, and Thunderdome, you know he's got a talent.
Man, just the range on that dude. Come on, man. I want to make a talking pig movie now. Forget it, George Miller. Forget it.
Is it a post-apocalyptic talking pig? No, just a regular talking.
It's rated PG.
We could sell post-apocalyptic talking, but not regular talking. So, this movie is sloppy. It is weird. It is paced completely wrong, and it's perfect. This movie is so perfect.
I got a feeling like at some point when they sat down early on to make this movie, they decided, you know what? Let's not try to reinvent the wheel. Let's have fun with the stuff that we like and that we think people will like. And I think that worked well for this movie. Is it didn't try to do something bold or earth-shattering or new. In fact, it gave us, like you said, big. They knew looking at this movie ahead of time, yes, this has a lot of elements in common with Big. So you know what? Let's just put a big keyboard in the middle of the floor of the mall and have a scene where Shazam runs across it.
And they're also really smart in the fact that they're kind of cribbing from Stranger Things also, where it's that Goonies feel, or
I was going to say that this movie, if I was going to describe it, I was thinking about this today when I watched it for the second time. It's one part Big, one part Greatest American Hero, a dash of Goonies, and maybe just a little bit of Diary of a Wimpy Kid, and not a whole lot of like traditional superhero stuff, but the traditional superhero stuff is Christopher Reeve Superman when we get it.
Right.
And, not to skip too far ahead here because I want to hit some of the early beats, but they give that moment that you like as much as I do, Sean, where a total callback to Superman, where the guy on the subway is telling him, that outfit shouldn't work, but I'll be cuss word if it doesn't. It's like,
man, you are not wrong. It's one of my favorite parts of the movie. It is one of my favorite things about this movie is that they get that part right. The other thing that I really, really love about this movie is that Zachary Levi is truly, honest to God, playing a 14-year-old kid. And one of the writers are so smart in this movie that, okay, so I just turned into a superhero, but the first thing I want to do are the things that only adults can do. So literally the first three things they do is they go to get beer. They hate it. They go to a strip club. He buys chicken wings and walks out because he's like, they're super nice.
yeah.
He's like, I saw some chowder buckets, but really these wings are what's really keeping me here. Like that kind of thing. It almost floats past him the reason why you would go there in the first place.
Just think of any place and that's where they end up. I mean, come on.
Well, and that's what I mean. Like that is a dumb kid thing.
Yeah.
And that is what makes it. That's what makes this movie so terrific, man. Like, just. I say this all the time is that, like so much joy is missing from superhero movies, especially on the DC side.
Yeah.
And this is a DC movie. This and Wonder Woman to me are 1 and 2 of the best DC movies that we've seen in a very long time since the super dark Batman Nolan stuff. And just listening to the children in this movie theater last night was so much fun, man. I mean, honest to goodness, they kept going, Shazam, Shazam.
And I feel pretty confident that DC's next stab at a superhero team movie, whether they'll call it Justice Society or try the Justice League name again, I don't know, but it's going to be anchored by Shazam, Wonder Woman, and Aquaman. I don't think there's any question about that now.
Not to.
And I think Ezra Miller's Flash could actually fit in with that movie better than he did with the previous one, and bring in a goofy cyborg. They got it set.
Yeah.
But
Take cyborg from Doom Patrol and you're good to go.
Yeah, the good
actually,
cyborg.
Good choice. Now, I just want to start off with some of the early things that I'm afraid we won't talk about if we don't make ourselves talk about it. But this beginning segment with Thaddeus Savannah in the car with his father and his brother in 1974.
Lex Luthor Sr.
Yeah, Lex Luthor Sr., exactly. I was a little confused here. I was, because I know the character of Dr. Savannah pretty well. I know his backstory, and this stuff is all pretty new for the movie. And I didn't understand what was going on here, what they were going to do with him. And then I kind of figured they're sort of making him Black Adam. He goes back to the Rock of Eternity, and they even drop a pretty serious hint about the existence of Black Adam in this universe when he says the first hero they chose recklessly, and he killed entire civilizations, et cetera, et cetera. And then Savannah gets out of there, and I thought, okay, well, I'm glad at least he didn't quite get the power, because he leaves that scene without any superpowers. He just has this obsession. But I was really confused here at this beginning scene. Like, what was happening here? Is this not going to be the movie I wanted? I certainly didn't want to start with the kid, Dr. Savannah. I want to get straight to Billy Batson, How are you guys feeling about this first little scene?
I thought it was fine. I mean, like it's that great kind of this is what's going to send somebody down the path kind of things. But I could see how, especially if you're super familiar with the character, how like this might be jarring. But no, I mean, it was all executed quite well.
And I was worried about it, and the reason why is because when you're watching a superhero movie, especially like the bad Batman movies, you're following the villains throughout their story arc to the point where you're kind of rooting for the villains after a while.
Sure.
And so I was worried that that's what was going to happen in this movie, but it with the writing and the acting and the casting, it didn't happen.
I mean, it's like you can say what you will about, I mean, we all enjoy the Burton Batman films, but Burton is far more interested in the villains than he is Batman by a long shot.
Right.
Yeah. And also, man, I was like kept expecting somebody to die with this car going sideways on the road, nearly getting hit by one truck, then getting hit by a second one. The fact that all three of those people are still alive later in the movie kind of bugged me.
Well,
like somebody should have died there.
One of them was in a wheelchair.
Seeing the direction of his neck on that street, no way that dude's alive.
He's just in a wheelchair now. But it's a really expensive wheelchair. You can tell by looking at it.
Oh yeah, sure. That wasn't just go down to the Salvation Army and pick up a loaner. No sir.
All wheelchairs are expensive, really.
But after that intro, we do get to meet Billy Batson. We start off with like a wide shot of a cityscape of Philadelphia in winter. And, I was in Philadelphia, about a month ago, almost 5 weeks ago now. And when I saw that wide shot, the first thing I thought was, man, I'm glad I'm not in Philadelphia right now because I don't enjoy my time spent in Philadelphia. But I guess Billy Batson does, because we see him actually locking cops inside of a pawn shop so he can access the database in their police car.
Because you have to show that the character is clever. On his own, he's clever.
But yet still enough of a kid to say the phrase walkie-talkie.
Yeah.
It's
and
great.
Also, once again, not expecting it, because sort of the reason, that comic book fans know that Billy Batson gets chosen is because he's got a good heart. He has a noble heart. And here, seeing him on the wrong side of the law from the very beginning makes me wonder what's going on. But then it makes sense, because when he gets down there to Shazam finally, the wizard Shazam, he's like, he's done. It's his last day on the job. They could have sent Homer Simpson or Jeffrey Dahmer down there. He doesn't care. Somebody's
business is yours. I'm done.
Somebody is walking out of here today with the power of Shazam, whether you like it or not.
This old wizard's done with the wizarding business.
But he does get placed with like the best foster parents in the world, man. I love these guys. I love Victor and Rosa, I think are their names.
Yeah, you got it right.
And I know Victor from The Walking Dead. He's a member of the Kingdom, if you watch The Walking Dead. But these are just like the world's best foster parents. And, for so long, movies going all the way back to things like Annie, the foster parents are always bad people,
Mm-hmm.
And I love it that these are just like the best imaginable foster parents in the world. They even have that bumper sticker on their van that says, "I'm a foster mom. What's your superpower?" A lot of folks, in my family have been in social work. That's kind of the mark that my family's made in the world, if we've made one at all. So I love to see this positive depiction of foster parents, this group home, which is a wonderful environment for these children to be in. It just kind of touches close to home, and I love seeing it portrayed positively.
For sure, man. And I'm going to make a joke here because it's not the top of my head, but then I'll be able to speak real about it. But, usually I can't even remember the last time I saw a foster home portrayed in a positive light. And really, I can't even remember the last time I saw a foster home in something that wasn't just a plot device. Yeah. Like the last real time I can remember seeing a kid brought up in foster care is Terminator 2. and it ends very poorly for those parents.
It does indeed.
And so when you see something like this, and we got to take care of to me, you have to take care of the people who need the most help. And this movie, as stupid as it sounds, at a multi-billion-dollar corporation, this is how they're helping. It does help that when you are a foster kid and you feel like, there's no one out there like me, I don't see anything on TV that, that looks like my life. And then you see something like this, you're like, oh, hey, that's all right. And if I'm a 10-year-old kid and I'm lucky enough to fall in with a family that's even remotely close to the family in this movie, this becomes my favorite thing of all time.
And the thing is they're not it's not an unbelievably perfect family. Like, everybody's almost got kind of their little picadillos and stuff, but it's actually stuff that kind of just makes it all feel like human and real.
Well, yes, and these are the most wonderful foster parents imaginable because they understand that.
Right. And the other part to this is that usually the thing that makes foster care or any sort of halfway house or whatever with kids in it, the kids are always the innocents and the parents are the ones who are the jerks. But in this particular house, the kids are terrible to each other. They're awful. And that is correct. And that is the way it works. And the parents are usually like, oh, geez, man, like, come on. I'm trying my best here. That's the way real life works. So to have that portrayed, it doesn't seem syrupy or fake because the kids are so awful.
And, as I'm watching this movie, I saw it on Thursday, saw it again today. I think from this weekend going forward that to anyone involved with foster families at all, whether you're foster parents, your foster children, your social workers, this needs to be sort of your patron saint. Like Shazam needs to be the go-to hero for folks who care about that whole system.
Yeah.
I love it, man. And I love buying original art. I think the next original art piece I get, I know a group home where I can place it, and I'm going to try to get some awesome Shazam art to be made out to the boys that live there and put that there. That's something I'm hoping I could do this summer.
Bruce Leslie, my small black heart has just been made big by what you just said. I am making jokes because it is my defense mechanism, but that is an incredible, thoughtful thing to do.
Now, I do want to point out I want to point out my favorite member of this family, and that is Darla, played by Faithie Herman. I want to adopt this child. She is the cutest little thing.
Darla Dudley's her name in the comics, and something that makes her kind of interesting in the comics is initially when she gets her superpower, she stays the cute little girl when everyone else becomes adults. Now, eventually she starts to become an adult too, but it just makes that character that much more adorable. And I would have loved it if they'd gone with that in this movie.
But man, she was, every time that little girl's on the screen, you just can't stop smiling because she's just as cute as all get out. And she says all the right, just great little things. It's just like, oh, who doesn't want that kid? Come on.
Her problem is she can't stop hugging people. It's literally what they said when she walked in the door.
Oh yeah, she's a real hardcore hugger. It's like, oh, okay, well, what a curse.
And then, Dr. Savannah makes his way back to the Rock of Eternity, but it's too late, I get. Well, no, it's not too late just yet. But
he gets there first.
Yeah, he goes back to the Rock of Eternity, and he gets the 7 deadly sins. He steals, I think they call it the Eye of Sin. That gives him the powers of the 7 deadly sins that in the comic books, they had to call them the 7 evil deeds of man for a while because the comics code wouldn't let them use deadly sins in their name. And they also had to rename lust to something else for a while in the comics, but he's back to lust now. And I love it that my 11-year-old son says, oh, I know which one lust is. Look at the one with the big, long tongue. And I'm like, son, where are you getting your information, man?
Oh, I know this one. Hold on.
That kid.
I had to smack him on the arm.
But, I do have to say, if there's a weak point to this movie, it's the fact that you have Mark Strong as the villain in this movie. And he does a fine job, as Mark Strong does in everything he does. it's the only point of this movie that feels a lot more of the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like possibly underwritten
so
really.
much is that it's so different from everything else we've seen except for Mark Strong.
And they work so hard to make Mark Strong's Dr. Sivana essentially a stand-in for Black Adam. Maybe now's the appropriate time to ask, why didn't they just have Black Adam in this movie?
Do you know how many jobs The Rock has? Because it's $1 billion.
Yeah, but do you know how many of them are like miles below the quality of this movie?
Yeah, but money talks.
I've got, but let's look at it this way, Bruce. One of the problems that a lot of superhero movies have is that the big bad supervillain they put in the first movie.
Yeah.
And so you have nothing to build up to. So the fact that they don't have Black Adam as the main baddie in this first one, and it's still great.
I agree with you to a degree. But the thing that I'm saying is they work so hard to get Dr. Sivana to fit into a Black Adam role.
Yeah.
And Dr. Sivana, if you look at the big picture of Captain Marvel comics, Dr. Sivana is the big baddie. Dr. Sivana is Lex Luthor. Black Adam is General Zod.
Oh, I see.
So Black Adam isn't necessarily the big bad until recently, when Jeff Johns really made that character more interesting to readers. But and we have The Rock attached to this, and we know that The Rock was announced like 8 years ago that he was going to be Black Adam, and we still haven't seen a hint of him as Black Adam.
I think it came out that same week as the Gambit news.
Exactly.
That Gambit are really any second now for both of them.
But the fact that he is attached to this film, at least tangentially, I guess tells me that some kind of agreement for him as Black Adam has to still be in place, because I can't think of any other reason why he's a producer on this film and they don't have a recast Black Adam playing Black Adam.
I'm glad they don't.
Savant.
I honestly, I'm glad they don't. I do think Mark Strong is the weak point to this movie. That and the fact that the 7 Deadly Sins aren't as unique as the Marvel family. I think that if you have it be like the Legion of Doom, this is a pretty that's another level up, even though this movie is just so terrific.
But I do want to say that I'm not going to accuse this movie of the Goyer approach, because this is something that could logically have happened in the comics, though it never did. The 7 Deadly Sins always need a host. There's no reason Dr. Sivana couldn't be that host.
And here's the thing. If you put The Rock in this movie, guess whose movie this automatically becomes? Because it's Zachary Levi is on that back burner at this point. Also, whenever they do put The Rock in a movie as Black Adam, there's going to have to be another villain near the end so that he can turn over to being one of the good guys. Because by the end of the movie, any movie with The Rock as Black Adam's going to have a change of heart and be a good guy by the end. And that's probably a struggle with him as the Black Adam.
My guess is that the Black Adam character in whatever incarnation we're going to see is going to be more like him on the JSA than anything else.
Yeah, it's going to have to be something like that.
Yeah.
And he might even be like, well, I think they would do a better job with Black Adam than Iron Man 3 did with the Mandarin, but it could be a MacGuffin villain where you think that Black Adam's going to be the villain, and then it turns out he teams up with the Justice Society or whatever they're calling the team to fight the real villain by the end of it. Like I said, I don't think he's actually going to be a straight villain in any movie if The Rock is playing that character.
Agreed. So we haven't really talked about the other kids. We talked about how cute Darla is, and we talked about Freddie, and how Freddie is, honest to goodness, my favorite part of this movie. That's just so terrific. But when it comes to the other kids, how did you guys feel about them?
Everybody felt real, Everybody felt like an actual kid that you've met at some point. And I think that was the most important thing, is that, like, a lot of times we go and we talk about how we got all these, like, great kid actors and stuff now, which we absolutely do. But sometimes those kid actors don't seem real. Like, they're almost too good. these kids, they look like kids that you see everywhere. It's not, not everybody looks like, your glamour shot ready to go kind of thing. It looks like a kid you'd see, at the mall.
Yeah, I mean, look at Pedro's a little on the chubby side. Darla is going to need braces when she gets older. The Eugene kind of is believable when he grabs the nunchucks and knocks himself out. He seems like a little twerp kind of guy.
We all knew that kid.
Yeah, I think they're good. The only one that I think maybe was a little unbelievable, perhaps, was Mary. I call her Mary Marvel. I don't know what her last name is here. She's definitely, yeah, Mary. She almost seemed a little too much like a Hollywood teenager and not a real teenager.
That's true. I can give you that one.
Like when she Shazammed into Mary Marvel, they didn't necessarily even need to recast her. You know what I mean? She looked enough like the person that played Mary Marvel at the end.
Close enough.
And also, something else I'll say, as soon as we meet Freddy, well, Captain Marvel Jr. is a pretty iconic character from comics. So I know that Freddy, you meet a kid named Freddy with a crutch. He's going to be Captain Marvel Jr., but I didn't know it was going to happen in this movie. And you meet Mary, and you immediately know, okay, there's Mary Marvel. But I had totally kind of blind spotted myself to the Flashpoint things. All the stuff that occurs in Flashpoint, you don't necessarily think of those as real or canon or whatever.
Yeah.
So I was kind of caught off guard when the other kids popped up at the end, and then I remembered like the Shazam kids from Flashpoint, and I thought, oh wow, this is actually has comic book precedent. This isn't something they're doing just for the sake of the movie, and I like it that I can be surprised by something when it's still canonically intact. It's not often that sort of thing happens. I liked it a lot.
The thing that's been bugging me for the last 20 minutes or so, as I said, that they do three things that Shazam does three things, or Billy Batson does three things when he turns into Shazam for the first time and he's an adult. Because like I said, he buys beer, he goes to the strip club. The third thing is he exacts revenge on the bullies. I totally forgot about that.
Yes, throwing the pickup truck ungodly high in the air. And I wonder if Dodge is happy about their product placement.
It's literally the third thing that they do. And so because those kids, what a throwback to 80s movies and John Hughes. I'm sorry, go ahead.
We first talked about this when we reviewed Marvel's Captain Marvel, how they decided to embrace some of the 90s comic book tropes, when comic book movies weren't so good. And we mentioned that the makeup on the Skrulls kind of looked like something from one of those 90s movies. Well, here, man, they're totally embracing it with the bullies at school. And then the costume is terrible but great at the same time, with the rubber padded muscles and all that kind of stuff. I mean, the costume absolutely shouldn't work. It's one of those 90s throwbacks. They go back to comic book physics. After the first Superman movie came out and Superman catches Lois falling from a building, and the next day all kinds of people with PhDs in physics were explaining why him catching her would have been even worse than her hitting the ground, because he's flying up and she's flying down. So in all the later movies, he would catch people and slowly decelerate with them, which is the right way to do it. Well, here, when the bus falls off the bridge and Shazam catches it, I mean, he's only preventing the impact by 6 feet. We'll give Zachary Levi a couple inches, say 6'3" or something. He's not really doing that bus any favors in the world of physics, but the movie just goes with it, and I kind of like that. It's a throwback where plenty of people watching that have to know that having two immovable hands crash through the front windshield. I mean, he's also holding the entire weight of the bus up via a cracked windshield.
I love how people keep falling down and they're right against his face on the glass and everything too. I was like, I don't think I've ever really seen it like that, and I thought that was hilarious.
And speaking of things we haven't seen in these comic book movies, the one thing I had never seen before is it's your standard getting to know your powers thing, where it's hilarious. He can't figure out all his powers. The thing we've never seen before that they do in this movie is that they try stuff that he can't do.
Yeah.
Where
yes,
where are you fireproof? Can you are you a telepath? And then there's a cut scene which it wasn't in the movie, at least that I saw, where they wanted to see if he could talk to fish. And so he's holding a fishbowl.
That's at the very, very end of the credits.
Yeah, it's your end credits.
It is.
Yeah. But oh man, it's amazing. That's the greatest American hero portion of the movie.
I mean, it's so good that I've never seen it in these movies. And so what a just terrific turn in my opinion. Like it was so neat. My particular favorite was the way that Freddy had no regard for Billy's safety when he's in the version of Shazam. You know, he gets shot in the convenience store. Shoot him in the face.
Yeah, we don't know if it's the costume or you. Shoot him in the face.
That kind of tickles a little bit.
And then he puts him in the dishwasher box to practice teleportation. And then he crosses out teleportation. You see secret fire test, and he sets fire to the box while he's in there. I love it.
Yeah, there's so much to recommend it. We should probably start wrapping it up, though, right?
What do you guys think about the fact that this was a Christmas movie?
I think it was good. I mean, listen, I like Christmas movies.
It reminds me, I saw Gremlins in the middle of summer, and that's a Christmas movie. And this is another one of those Christmas movies released in summer that will probably be available for purchase on home video by Christmas time. But this is one I think I'm going to enjoy watching around the time when the rest of America is watching those 40 new Hallmark movies.
or Die Hard.
Listen,
Yeah,
well,
or Die Hard.
but the difference is, not for nothing, because I'm a stickler on the Christmas movies. This, while a movie that takes place during Christmas time, not a Christmas movie because Christmas is not an actual integral part to the story.
I would say that Santa Claus plays a big part.
Yeah, Santa Claus is a big part of this movie, man.
And also, Santa Claus gets a little handsy with that girl that sits on his lap, by the way. As a parent, I was uncomfortable with that.
Well, there's only, when we get to this point in the show, there's only one thing that we really... Oh, I do want to do this real quick, though. But yes, you said that we had the fish scene at the very end. That's your last tail credits. And I like how this is like, talk to fish, who cares? And I thought that was a cool little fun line. And that was, to me, that also felt very Jeff Johns-ish to just go like, hey,
yeah,
I helped remake Aquaman to the awesome dude that he is today. So little props to me, please. But the scene before that, the mid-credit scene, Bruce, can you explain that one to us a little bit?
Well, we get, and I'll go ahead and say this is the second time that Mr. Mind appeared in this movie, is the mid-credit scene. Now, the first time that we go to the Rock of Eternity, the camera does close in on a caterpillar who is, or an inchworm or whatever you want to call him. I'll call him a caterpillar, who's being held captive on the Rock of Eternity along with the 7 deadly sins. And then it moves on to the Wizard Shazam. You don't really linger on it, but you do get a good look at a caterpillar who does not have his voice box with him. But here at the prison, with the changes that have happened, I guess when the 7 deadly sins were managed to escape, Mr. Mind, the clever genius mind-controlling worm, Mr. Mind, escaped from the Rock of Eternity. And here he shows up in prison with his voice box intact. And fans of the comics would know that the big 3 arch villains of Captain Marvel, Shazam, are in this order probably: Dr. Sivana, Mr. Mind, and Black Adam. So we've had references to all 3 of his main supervillains here. And Mr. Mind is the leader and founder of the Monster Society of Evil.
And what an amazing name that is, let's be honest.
So good.
But Mr. Mind is an extraterrestrial worm, too, in case you're curious. He's not an earthworm, so to speak.
Aha! Well, that's a genius bit right there. And speaking of bits, we need to get to the most important bit of this entire show, is how this movie relates to Sylvester Stallone.
Thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement. First of all, I would like to apologize for how lame the Stallone connection is this week. Don't get me wrong, there is one, but if there were 2 words I could use to describe the Stallone connection this week, those 2 words would be, it sucks. It doesn't have anything to do with the connection itself, which we'll get to in a minute. It's because, as I have been told by countless creative writing teachers, I'm not good on follow-through of an idea if I think it sucks. And this one sucks. It sucks. It sucks more than biting into a stale cupcake. It sucks more than listening to old white people make hilarious jokes about rap music. It sucks more than a suck machine set to maximum suck. Troy L. Coffey is the assistant location manager on Shazam. And if I ever have the pleasure of meeting this man in real life, I will extend my hand, give him 5 good ones, and say, hello, Troy L. Coffey. It's a pleasure to meet you, Troy L. Coffey. I will never call him anything but Troy L. Coffey. Because if I were ever to be one of those terrible people who use assumed names, I would totally use the name Troy L. Coffey. What's the L in Troy L. Coffey stand for? I don't know. But I really like the name Troy LeBron Coffey or Troy Leroy Coffey, but only if Troy L. Coffey is a white dude. One of my favorite things is meeting a white guy named Luther or Otis or Dwayne. I would like to remind you, HMP, I already admitted earlier that the Stallone connection sucks. Well, Troy L. Coffey also worked with Sylvester Stallone on the movie Creed, which is a good movie. He was the assistant location manager on that. Creed's a good movie. So is Shazam. You should see both those movies if you get a chance. I'm sorry, everyone. I'm Sean Koufax. I'm truly sorry.
Well, I thought the connection would be those stairs in front of the art museum.
Hey, listen, I mean, Rocky got a shout out in the movie itself. So, I mean, you know.
I could totally see why I would train so hard to run up these stairs. I love it.
So it's very funny. The problem is that as much as closer of a Stallone connection to that is, I had even less for that than I did for Troy L. Coffey.
So we got the extended version.
Yes.
Very nice. Speaking of very nice, let's get down to our very nice Robin rating system. Again, if you're new at the show, we don't rate things in stars or letters or none of that. We have our own garbage. It's called the Robin rating system, and if you want to check that out and where that Robin rating system is, check out facebook.com/Hero Movie Podcast. Give us a like. It's right there at the top of the screen. And let me tell you, I've been posting some good stuff on that page lately. And if you're not there, you're missing out on some quality images, memes, and a whole bunch of other stuff, superhero related. So go check that out. Facebook.com/Hero Movie Podcast. Bruce, where does Shazam fall on the Robin rating system for you, sir?
This is a fun movie, man. This is a joyful movie. This is a movie that almost works like by accident. I think it's really hard to duplicate what it was that this movie did right. Unfortunately, that won't stop people from trying and focusing maybe on the wrong parts of it. Not perfect. You know, we had a couple things we didn't like about the villain. But all in all, man, this is a solid Tim Drake. This is a movie for old-timey comic book fans as well as young kids. I mean, this one really is – you're going to be hard-pressed to find somebody who doesn't enjoy this movie. I really think so. So I'm giving it a Tim Drake.
Very nice. Sean?
For me, this is not the best movie that I've seen all year, but it is my favorite movie I've seen all year. So much fun, so much joy. It's oozing joy out of the screen.
Oh, it's everywhere.
It is. It's like you got to wear boots. But for me, this is a Dick Grayson. I love this movie.
Nice.
I love this movie so very much. I hope to see more of Zachary Levi in this role. I want to see the other people in this movie more. I could do without more Mark Strong, but what are you going to do? It's to me, it's just my favorite thing I've seen this year so far.
And I think Sean's right. It's like this is a world that you kind of want to live in for a while. You want to go back to this and visit this and these characters and everything. So, and the movie's doing well. So I think we're very much going to have a chance to do that again. I'm with Bruce. A very strong Tim Drake on this one. This is it's a heck of a lot of fun. And you know, I saw 2 movies I really liked this weekend, so like I couldn't be more pleased. And they're very far, you know, on the opposite sides of the spectrum. And
here's the loaded question:
Mm-hmm.
the Battle of Captain Marvels. Who wins this spring?
I like this one better. I'm gonna say it.
I think I would rather watch this one again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've seen the other one twice, but yeah, I plan on seeing this one probably again as well. But it's just, to me, it's a whole heck of a lot of fun. And boy, it's so refreshing to see DC do this and really get in there and just, you know, kind of give the fans what they want. I know that's not usually their MO with these things, but apparently if you give them enough rope, they'll do, some pretty great stuff. So that's it, everybody. But guess what? We're going back to the movies next week. No. We're not resting on our laurels here. No, sirree, Bob. We're heading back next week for the new Hellboy movie. I think it has a subtitle, but I sure shooting don't remember it. But we'll be.
It's called Hellboy, the one without Ron Perlman.
The Ron Perlman-less Hellboy. We'll be talking about that.
It should be called Hellboy. Don't worry, there won't be a sequel.
What? We'll see. I heard there was a splatter cut that showed a lot of cool action scenes. I didn't watch it, but it's on the internet. People are saying, hey, it's R-rated bloody goodness and stuff. I don't know. Listen, I want every movie to be a great movie, so we'll see. And of course, like I said, you can always support us over at patreon.com/HMP and join in and vote on the movies that we're going to watch. So check that out as well. Bruce, in the meantime, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
Just hop on over to Chubby Wizard. We're always talking about some fun stuff there. We were talking about the new season of Trailer Park Boys, the animated season of Trailer Park Boys, and what kind of craziness goes on there. And you can always head over to Amazon and pick up a little book I like to call Nerd Spawn Genesis. I like to call it that because that is the name of the book. So check that out. It's a great superhero story where the worlds of podcasting and superheroing collide at a Comic-Con.
And Sean, aren't you speaking at an insurance event this next weekend?
I am. I'm going to be at the Hilton in Scottsdale, Arizona. I will be speaking about insurance adjustment and what it means to you and your family. So please come by. There's going to be two different. We have two different times. We have the 5:30 so that you can go and get liquored up, if you know what I mean, being out of town. Whatever.
When in Scottsdale.
It's all fun, you guys. It's all for fun. And then we have the the later crowd where it might get a little bit blue. We start at 8:30, and you do not want to bring your kids to this one. I'll tell you what.
That's when you loosen the tie, right?
Oh man, there is nothing like good insurance salesman stories when you got a few in you, if you know what I mean. And I really look forward to seeing you guys in Scottsdale, Arizona, at the Hilton. I think it's Ballroom B, I think. I'm not exactly sure. I got to look on that. But hopefully we will see you there in Scottsdale, Arizona. And thank you, Adam, because I almost completely forgot about that.
And remember, everyone, it's a dry heat. All right? You'll be fine. I've been far behind on too many things. I'm busy getting my life together. And in doing so, there will be a new episode of the Film Find this week. So keep on a lookout for that. So, yeah. All right, everybody. So join us next week for the new Hellboy, sans one Ron Perlman. For Sean Koufax, Bruce Leslie, I'm Adam Portrais. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Evie. Good night, HMPers and BLs.
All the BLs.
Cause I'm having a good time, having a good time.
Shooting star